Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot him in the head.
As an airsoft enthusiast, we often find ourselves interested in different guns from time to time. However, not all airsoft guns are created equal. Often find ourselves going back to that same gun that's proven to be the most reliable. And for me, this is that Workhorse. This is my Tokyo Marui MWS Mark 16 build. And today I want to show you everything I have in this rifle setup. So let's go all the way from tip to butt. So this rifle is a 14.5 inch build, so it has kept the same barrel length from the original M4A1, even though this isn't the original outer barrel due to compatibility issues with the handguard and the barrel nut. So starting with the muzzle, I have a steel 4-prong flash hider. Chose it for the looks and also the nice little sound that it makes. Moving on to the rail system, this is a Mark 16 rail. I do like it for its low profile modularity, and in terms of accessories, I have kept it pretty minimal, just the bare essentials on here. So I have a weapon light mounted on the forwardmost position, and that's to prevent any casting of the muzzle and also to get a nice full projection when you have it turned on. That's where I have my pressure switch mounted on the 12 o'clock position. That's for easy access with either hand. And that's from the Magwell hand stop I installed on the bottom here. So as long as my hand is engaged on the hand stop, my thumb will always be able to easily find the pressure switch. And I have several BCM panels on here just to improve the grip, and it also rounds out the profile of the handguard more. As for cable management, I've gone old school here with just a little bit of zip ties. I think they work perfectly fine in both M-LOK rails or even quad rails. Now on the left side of the handguard here, I do have a BCM QD mount. Another thing I really like about the BCM mount and the slot on the B5 stock, which we'll get to in a moment, is that they are both non-rotating slots, meaning that once the QD is inserted, they are not able to pivot, change the orientation. That way the sling doesn't become flipped or tangled as you're using them. I do run several different QD slings. Even though the handguard does come with its own QD slots, I do find the 45-degree angle to be a little bit awkward and a little harder to access when you're trying to push your QD in. So that's why I opted for an additional QD mount here from BCM. And what's that sound? Okay, I think that's coming from the grip. So either something is loose in the rifle or there's something in the grip that I forgot about. That's a little cough drop. I think this is from a previous event because we talk so much in these events. Worried about losing my voice, so I'm gonna pop that back in there because I never know when I'm gonna need that. So moving on to the receiver. The receivers have been kept mostly original. So this is the original Marui Cerakote body. I have several components on here have been swapped. So the bolt release, I've changed it for a steel component because the original zinc release is quite brittle. But if you're going to change to a steel latch, do keep in mind that it's generally a good idea to also replace the bolt catch plate to a lighter one, because that steel bolt catch is going to add to the overall resistance of your mechanism. Besides the bolt release, the trigger is another component that I've swapped out for a steel one, and that was due to another accident because on a lot of these MWS rifles, the trigger unit is so tight. Tight, yeah! In the lower receiver that you have to pry them out or tap them upside down with a hammer and a pin. And that's what I was doing, and I actually ended up breaking the original trigger by accident. And I don't like to leave my gun apart for prolonged periods of time. So at the time I hopped on my bike and I got to the nearest airsoft store, and a flat trigger was all they had. And so that's actually how I ended up with it. It wasn't by choice. It was all they had in the store. But I guess with the flat trigger, it does offer some advantage. Is when you're taking those longer shots, you're able to position your finger lower on the trigger, and that gives you a little bit more leverage. But speaking of the trigger, that would be my main gripe about the MWS platform. So due to the way that the system is designed, everything was sort of designed with reliability and longevity in mind, with features such as the spring-loaded buffer, the cushioned bolt carrier on various parts, and the absolute clockwork of a fire control unit. The trigger assembly is quite complex, and the break of the trigger is it's a very mushy break. It's not like the clean break you get from, say, like VFCs or GHKs. Those have a lot more realistic internals in terms of the trigger. So I'm going to just charge your gun once again. That is all the take-up you have before you meet any resistance. That's probably less than 1 millimeter of travel, and from that point all the way up to the break, it's just constant mush, constant resistance, and break. I wouldn't really consider this a problem, but more of a trait that MWS rifles share in common just due to the way they're designed. And having run this gun for so many years, I guess you kind of get used to it. It doesn't really bug you as much. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the trigger guard. I have actually installed a real Magwell trigger guard on this gun. And the reason for this is to take up that annoying little space that you otherwise have. So it's gonna steal Andrew's URGI quickly. This is the original trigger guard that's typical with these M4s. And you notice that in the back here where the trigger guard meets the grip, there is a lot of space here. When you're holding your gun for prolonged periods of time, that can dig into your middle finger and cause quite a bit of discomfort. So an aftermarket trigger guard usually takes care of that because it takes up all the spaces in there. So now when you grip your pistol, it's a nice even surface. And the trigger guard profile is enlarged, so when you are wearing gloves, it also makes for a nicer trigger access. And I have this, I think this is a 3D printed Magwell. I just got it because I thought it looked cool, because I saw that other people had it, so I jumped on the bandwagon and got one. Does it really make reloading faster? I don't really feel the difference, really. There's a little bit of material back here needs to be removed. So I actually run two kinds of magazines with this rifle. I have these original Marui magazines. So these Stanag, these metal magazines, and I have these Ace One Arms PMags. So with the PMags, you have this little tab back here, and that actually interfered with the Magwell. So we had to take out a little bit of material back here just so that it would clear that tab, as you can see right here. But otherwise, if you're just running the factory magazines, that's not really a problem at all. While we're on the topic of magazines, I've actually had a lot of people ask me before what this is. Some people thought it was some kind of a base plate, but I think from this close, it should be very evident what this is. This is just a original magazine, Magpul Mag Assist, and all I've done was cut off the loop and installed it upside down. And I got rid of the loop because the Marui magazines have the fill valves on the bottom, so that would get in the way. And I put it upside down because the uncut profile is a lot smoother. But that gives you a much better grip surface to remove it from your magazine pouch. Or otherwise, the factory magazines, similar to this one, has a smooth finish. And when you have a deeper magazine pouch, that makes it a little bit harder to remove, especially when you have gloves on. So moving on to the grip, the Magpul K2 has always been one of my favorite due to the reduced grip angle. I know there are grips out there that are straighter, but I just like this for the overall design and profile. I also like how the back here has a little step. It helps to correct the height of your grip and puts your hand very naturally aligned with that trigger. And obviously with that little storage compartment down here, you can throw all sorts of garbage in there, or little tools, battery, or even snacks. And I did also install a steel ambidextrous safety. And the charging handle, this is I think like a PRI M82 style gas buster. Because this gun actually at one point used to be a Mark 18. I have kept that charging handle on here. The larger latch does help me clear the scope a little bit better. Here's a top-down view. So I kept that charging handle. And moving on to my sighting system, my main optic is this Atable Striker second focal LPVO. I think this is a fantastic optic for airsoft because the magnification ranges from 1 to 4 times zoom. I think that is perfectly sufficient because, you know, the most you're punching out with a GBB like this is like 80 meters, like with a really well-tuned gun and heavy BBs. So 4 times magnification is more than enough for that, and even when you're not shooting out that far, you can use it as like a observation tool. And because it has a 1 times like no zoom setting and a illuminated reticle, when you turn on that reticle, I can actually quickly show you the reticle right here. Makes for a very nice sight picture at close range because you can sort of just quickly get your sight acquisition at that low power setting. And when you're punching out to those longer distances, you can just turn the adjustment here, and that brings you anywhere between 1 to 4 times zoom. One of my favorite features of this scope is the locking turrets. So instead of having removable turret caps that you can probably, you know, fumble and lose, these, you just pull them up to unlock it, and then you can make your quick adjustments on the fly. And once you push them down, they stay right there in place. I think I picked this scope up like some 7-8 years ago during a Christmas sale, so I think I got it for a pretty good deal. And then last time I checked, these retail for like just a little over $200, so that's a really good deal for an optic like this. And it also has great clarity and has held up a zero fine over the past few years of use. Actually just noticed that the scope is pretty beat up. I have several hit marks that's been hit by BBs here, and here. I can't figure out how I got hit on the left side of the scope. Now I'm just worried if there were hits that I didn't call, because I definitely didn't feel those. And I also have backup irons on this rifle. I personally like to have them because I've had my optics shot out before, or you know, forgot to change battery and they don't work with red dots. Without battery, they're pretty much useless. These I think are off of a VFC Mark 18. Not sure about the Mark 18 part, but these are definitely VFC. They barely take up any space, and they just fold up like this when you need them. The back aperture is blocked by the scope, so we're gonna need to remove the scope in order to fully deploy that. Now, moving on to the back of the rifle, the buffer tube is original. This is a B5 Bravo stock. The profile is sort of like similar to a salt mod stock, except it's been slimmed down and all of the corners have been rounded off. And since battery storage is not really a concern with gas blowbacks, I do like the comfort and the profile of this stock. So that's it. That's my Mark 16 Marui build. And just a little tip for those of you out there who work on your own guns, don't leave parts on your lap. I know it can be very tempting, but chances are you touch a little bit, or God forbid, you know, someone runs into you, those parts gonna fall off your lap. It's gonna get damaged. That's it for this week's video. What's the workhorse from your collection? This is Louis from Quasmar Airsoft signing off.